Hey, welcome everybody to our December 17th meeting of the Charter Revision Commission. We are calling this meeting to order at 6:34. We will do we'll do a roll call here. It's a little, we have a number of people on Zoom tonight, and then this is our I don't know. Oh, you guys can see, I hope, on the widescreen camera. So the chambers are different than the last time we were in here. There's only one iPad now at the chair's seat. So Jim is here in person with me. You can see him hopefully on one of those screens. I see Ed, Joe, Tanya, and John online. Let me see. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Doug. Hearing from Doug. Doug is. Yeah, that's right. Doug told us that he's not available tonight. He is at his grandson's school concert, and we have someone on the phone here. I'm not sure if that is Rick or if that's somebody else. The number ending 9502. You know who that is?
Our mystery guest.
Hello? Hi, on the phone, I'm sorry, who's that? Unsure. Okay. Is this somebody from IT, from the city on the phone? Maybe Esther, I'm not sure.
Not that I know
of. Okay. Well, leave it be.
You have 5 members.
We're down Doug and Carl. Otherwise we have Ed. Ed is here remote. Joe is remote. Tanya is remote. John is remote. I'm here with Jim.
So you have 6 members.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
We're good to start. And let me check. Check what we have next here. Okay, so we have the acceptance of our minutes from the December 3rd meeting, and I'm glad that we have John on Zoom here. I was prepared, John, to give your full slate of updates if you weren't here, and if it's technologically not feasible, I'm happy to do it anyway. But I guess first, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of our December 3rd meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, any revisions, corrections, additions to those minutes? I had one. John, I'll get mine out of the way, and I think it overlapped with yours anyway. On page 4, item B, the second paragraph, there's a reference to who's worried their way down the list when it should have been worked their way down the list, although worried is probably not that far off from the process the last time around, but that was my one revision. The other thing, and John, I just wanted to mention before, if you have your suggestions, I did just, I wanted to mention that I will, I'll double check with Esther what the process is for posting the revised minutes. I think you had mentioned to me, John, that some of the versions that were on the website did not have the corrections we had suggested at some of our other meetings before we accepted the prior minutes. So I'll look back through those and make sure that the ones that are posted are including the suggestions that we've made. Does anyone else have any revisions to the minutes or additions, suggestions, changes before we approve the 12-3 minutes? Joe?
Let me lower my hand. Let me figure out how to lower my hand. So, Heather Dunn, she had some comments that were presented, not verbally. She was not present. And they were never presented as part of the minutes. And I'm so sorry for clearing my throat, but I can't help it. We haven't seen that yet in the public, comment part.
Okay.
Portion.
So, yeah, so I think it's been circulated among the committee members. Steve included it in the tracking chart, in the grid that we have, that I can check to make sure that that's posted online. Joe, how would you like to see them otherwise posted somewhere or made part of,
I,
packet? I mean,
I
I think
mean,
they're, sorry, go ahead.
no, I mean, I think it's very important to have the public portion, people who comment and have questions, making that, you know, very visible. As opposed to, I mean, I kind of feel like, and I understand that we are trying to do our best job, but when it's buried within, excuse me, the minutes or the recording, people don't have the advantage of hearing what their peers have to say or question. So,
Agreed. Yeah, I'll check with Steve. I know that we've been incorporating, I think what we have been doing was when we receive written comments, we've been making them part of the document that Steve keeps so that they're all tracked in one place. So that if anybody wanted to see, written comments have been submitted, they're there in that document. But obviously we have to be sure that that document is linked prominently on our page in order for it to be useful. So I will check with Steve and Esther to make sure we're doing that because, I agree with you. Any written comments we get need to be available for people to see, much as they could, go back and hear any comments from people who present in person in our recording. So I'll follow up on that, Joe.
great. Thank you, Tyler.
So I apologize. I'm in a different time zone, so everything's going to be hard for me tonight. When you say that Heather Dunn's letter is incorporated into Steve's comments, they're summarized into the grid, or what's happened to the letter?
Sorry, Jen, you cut off at the end. I didn't hear you.
Sorry, what's happened to the letter? Is there a reason that it can't be shared with every member of the commission so we can see what Heather Dunn had to say in her letter?
It has been shared with every member of the commission.
Oh, really? In what format? I missed it. Where is it?
It was emailed. I'll double check. I mean, it was, I believe Esther emailed it to everybody. Did no one else get Heather's letter? Or was it?
I likewise have not seen this, so if we could have it.
No, my apologies. I thought it went out already. I will double check my email. But I
missed it. I'm wondering. I have missed it if it was sent. I'm wondering, is there any other commission member that received it?
I don't recall receiving it, but I don't look at my Gmail that often.
Right. Yeah, I have the same problem with email.
Yeah, I'll make sure that it goes out. If people didn't get it, I apologize about that.
It should be posted on the website. But it's definitely, I'm looking at my grid, and I definitely included her comments in the grid.
So, and when you say you include the comments, it's a summary of what she wants, or
yes,
it's an attachment? Okay.
No, it's not an attachment. It's a summary of the same way I've included everybody else's. If they were in favor of a 4-year term, I indicated the name of the person who was in favor of that. It's not I don't explain their positions on anything. I just simply indicate what they were in favor of on the grid.
Okay. So I have additional, as Tyler knows, I have additional comments on the minutes. And I am looking for them now and am not able to find them. Tyler, I apologize, but I'm wondering if you have them with you. Are you able to read them for me while I continue to look for them?
One of the other alternatives, Tyler, would be, why don't you just pass on this item and deal with it at the next meeting?
Table the minutes.
We don't have to approve the minutes now. That's fine.
Oh, great. Then Then may I move to table the minutes to our next meeting? Or
All in
approval of
favor?
the minutes to the next meeting?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the way to go. So all in favor of that approach? We'll table the 3 minutes and we'll deal with it next time. Okay. Okay,
I'm not sure that I'm okay with tabling the comments. If we are discussing the comments, that should be made part of the public comments. I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding, and I'm sorry, it's because I
Well,
have a cold.
yeah, no, it's not a problem. No, so John had a number of comments. I mean, the option would be I read them from my email on his behalf, or we can just wait and let John do it himself so that there's nothing lost in translation at our first meeting in January. So we won't be missing anything. We'll just be doing it at a subsequent meeting.
Okay.
If that's okay. Yeah. Okay. Public participation is next on our agenda. See if we have anybody. We do. We have 2 people. One of them has their hand up. Lisa, we will call on you now for the public participation portion. If somebody could make Lisa live here.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Lisa.
Oh, great, thanks. Lisa Ritten, 19 Shorefront Park, Independent Party Town Chair. Tonight, in the interest of transparency and for someone who's paid attention to charter revision since 2015, I want to publicly go on the record and request that the Charter Revision Commission provide a more visible and accessible public portal so the public can view and comment in writing on the charter revision topics. A published agenda with abbreviated minutes is insufficient. If the city's Complete Streets group can provide a portal for public comment about sidewalks, I think that you guys could as well. For several months, there's been discussion and concern raised by some commission members, and even tonight, about capturing public comments or from public or private officials, or minutes being paraphrased and insufficient. I understand Mr. Mendick is keeping, I guess, notes or a grid, but unfortunately the public does not have access to those notes. And I fear they might be truncated and selective, maybe due to a preordained agenda by the city. For example, I've collected Connecticut municipal data on a host of topics that have been discussed, like minority party representation, size of municipal legislative bodies, and use of city managers, and other things you guys have brought up. But how do I share it? I don't have your emails. 3-minute public comments are insufficient. So, I hope that you guys can get a better public portal or a way of communicating this. And I hope that the press reports on this transparency and public communication policy matter. And I thank you very much.
Yeah, Lisa, thank you for your comments. And I mean, there's 2 things. Okay, one is that we are aware of the portal, the lack thereof. It's something that we've discussed. It's something I have brought to the city's attention, and I will continue to follow up to be sure we have a portal. I have to take issue, and I want to be on the record as saying that there's some kind of instruction from the city to this commission to have truncated minutes or abbreviated minutes or to hide things. Not the case at all. Okay, so if there's an issue with the website in not having an adequate portal, we will work on that. We're aware of it. We've discussed it at prior meetings. We'll make sure it's up there. There's no shortage of ways to get in touch, whether it's in person, whether it's on Zoom. There is still an email link. I'm happy to provide my email personally. I've received Heather Dunn's comments personally to my Yahoo email. I wasn't even aware that was out there, but I got the comments. Okay, so there's absolutely no direction from the city to this commission to not provide information to members of the public. So if it's not out there, it's something that we can correct and we'll work to correct, but that's not something I want to have part of this discussion. Any other members of the public? Let's look at the attendance list. No other hands up. No one is here in person. That will conclude the public participation portion. Old business. Did anybody have any old business that we wanted to address before we dig into the new business, which was to take a look at the kind of the breakdown of our approach and possible panels coming up? John?
Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a bunch of items for old business. We already discussed the Heather Dunn letter where we will receive it by email, and it may get posted once a portal is created for public comments. With respect to the website, there's been some confusion. I shared these with you and Doug Tyler. But the city did create a new Charter Revision Commission website. And so there was one, and now there's another one that I think supersedes it. And the both lack the portal that I know had been mentioned in previous meetings as desirable to obtain public input. And I know, I believe you had said that'll get fixed or worked on or put in place. There are buttons on the website. There's a reference to, God, it would be so much more effective if I could just share this directly with the commission, but the button that says October 24 Charter Revision Commission PowerPoint presentation. I believe that was Steve Mednick's PowerPoint from our very first meeting, but that link goes to a page that says this link has been disabled. The suggestion portal, as I mentioned, there is a suggestion portal that's labeled Charter Revision Comments and Suggestions button, and it goes to a page that says this form is currently not accepting responses. So the portal is not yet functional, although a button for it exists. This button probably, in my view, should be more prominent on the page.
Can I just say, I don't interrupt, but I just went on there and there's a recommendation and comment submission form when you push the button. I literally just did that while you were talking, and also it went right to my presentation was available when I pushed the button. So I don't know what I just wanted to.
Then Steve, then I would just say that I'm describing things that have been fixed since I had sent these concerns to Tyler a couple of days ago.
They seem to be okay. Others should check it, but I just was checking it in real time, John, Commissioner, just to make sure that what you were saying was right. But it seems to be, there is a suggestion form.
You'll have to, I believe you. That's great. That's his progress. And I would just say that what I'm saying it was right as of probably 3 or 4 days ago. And I've been traveled and have not been able to monitor the progress on fixing the portal.
Joe, sorry, John, to interrupt. Joe, did you have something that you wanted?
I was hoping that somebody could send a link to that because I was trying to find that myself and I couldn't find it. And again, I have a cold and all that, so maybe I'm like not at my best, but I couldn't find it. So if I could get a link to the page and I could try to figure out, where.
Let me just tell you how I did it. I just did Norwalk Charter Revision Commission in Google.
Yeah, Joe, if you just Google Norwalk Charter Revision Commission, it'll take you to the page.
And the top one is is Charter Revision Commission Norwalk, Connecticut official website.
Yeah.
Well, I could find that, but as far as submitting public comments, that was my question.
When you go to that page, on the left-hand side, it's a Citizen's Guide to Charter Revision, et cetera, et cetera. And the bottom one is Charter Revision Comments and Suggestions. And when I just pressed it, there's a recommendation and comment submission form. Your information, your name, email, phone number, address, and then at the bottom is describe your recommendation or comment.
I will look that up because I actually worked for many years in usability, UX, web production, and I was like, I don't know where this is. But anyway,
John.
No, I just did it in real time while we were sitting here, and I'm not being defensive because I have nothing to do with this, but it seems to be working.
John, I'd ask you because I never used it myself last time. Is what Steve is describing kind of in line with what we had last time that you were referring to when you said we need to have more of the portal like we had last time? Or is it still not quite what we'd had last time?
The short answer is I don't know because I am not on, I'm on the old chart. I'm trying to do in real time what Steve has just done.
Yeah.
And my Google search took me to the old new Charter Revision Commission web page, not to the
I
um,
just
new
did it just now.
one.
As soon as I put in Norwalk Charter Revision, it popped up. It was the first thing that popped up. And then on the left-hand side, the last tab at the bottom is where you can submit like requests and stuff like that. And
Okay.
comments.
Well, I will, I mean, so I will double check. I had submitted a bunch of requests to Esther to have the city look at as far as our webpage goes, based on things we had discussed and some emails I had back and forth with John. I will look and make sure. I think one of the challenges was that I think there was a new page that also kind of linked to the old page because we had some relevant kind of reference materials in there from last time that were still valid. But it gets confusing if you have, an old one and a new one, and they're taking you to different places. I know one of the challenges before was that some of the links were dead. That you would click on it and it wouldn't go anywhere. So there's no need to have that on there. But it sounds as though the city has made some kind of improvement. If we're able to click on the submission portion, that seems a little more robust than just that email link that we all had decided wasn't enough. So I don't know that we need to spend too much time tonight on the website. I think we can all maybe play around with it between this meeting and the next. And then what I would ask would be email me and I will I'll kind of put everything together and get it to the city. You can feel free to copy everyone on the commission. That's fine, just so we can all be aware of what each other is seeing and trying to use the website. But I'm happy to put some more website suggestions together. I want to make sure that it's sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that suggestion, that we can kind of have a little usability, session.
Yeah, we can, we if we want to spend a couple minutes on that before our next meeting, just to make sure that what we all want to see on the website is there, then I think that might make sense. John, did you
And I
have
would
any
just
other?
yeah, so I just wanted to say that I had sent the website fixes needed to Tyler, Doug, and Esther, and it looks based on what Steve and Tyler said is that many, if not all of those already have been addressed. So I'm happy to save it to the next meeting as well. Any other concerns, just to see if they've already been addressed.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. And I think, I want to thank Esther. I know she's been extraordinarily helpful with kind of, putting all our meeting stuff together, but also getting some of these fixes done that we wanted to see. So, there's only so much that we can control on the commission. We can send our suggestions to the city and hope for the best. And so far, I think most of our requests have been addressed. So, do we have any other old business before we look at the?
Apologies, 2 more items. Earlier in earlier meetings, I had requested that at least the commission members be able to review the comments and suggestions submitted to the public but by the public to the previous Charter Revision Commission. And I know that you had said, yes, those have been retained. I looked for them and couldn't find them. I'm sure they have been retained, but I would love to be able to review what was submitted by the public to the prior CRC, and that request repeats.
I thought I sent the grid for the final grid for the last charter commission some time ago. I'll send it again.
Okay.
Oh, so I was actually requesting the full the actual text of comments, questions, and suggestions, rather than their summary in grid form. Was that ever available?
Most comments were, I'll defer to the chair, but most comments were verbal, and they would be reflected in the minutes, or you could watch the video of the comments. I don't know if the videos are still posted.
Right. So
but,
I'm asking, the prior commission had a portal where the public was invited to submit
that I don't know.
their comments and suggestions.
Yeah, John,
And
I'll look from what we had last time. I mean, most of what we received was either a comment. As Steve mentioned, either verbal comment on Zoom or it was somebody in person and it just was transcribed into the grid. To the extent that we ever aggregated all of like the email or portal stuff and put it in a document, I don't know that we did that. I can look and see if we have it somewhere.
So I should ask, did the previous CRC ever have a chance to view the comments submitted through the portal? Were those members able to review those comments, or were they only available to the members after being interpreted into Steve Mednick's request grid?
No, it's not that they were interpreted. I do think we saw them. I mean, to be honest, I don't know that we got more than like 10 written comments last time. So I think we did see them, but I don't, they weren't put together in like a one single document or a booklet. I'll check and see what we had last time. But it wasn't, the idea that the comments that we're receiving are being like filtered through Steve or something. I mean, that's not what happened.
My question really is, if you got 10 comments through the portal to the last commission, that's 10 more than we've received so far this year.
Yeah, I
written form
suggest that
from the
we have
public.
this charter revision, a commission, and what occurred at the last charter revision commission, although interesting, conceptually, it has no particular relevance to what we do now. Moreover, a lot of this stuff can be handled by email, after or before this meeting, because it's really chewing up a lot of time. It's 7 o'clock now. We've been on for half an hour, and I don't think we've really moved the needle any with respect to this commission.
And I strongly disagree. If you read the current charter indicates that this commission should be formed to review the work of the last commission. And this request is part
The work of last
that
commission
assignment.
is the work of the last commission is the current
charter, right? It's the work of the last.
Absolutely.
John, I will look for those comments to the extent that they're preserved somewhere. I personally don't have them. I will see if somebody can dig them up. I mean, they're obviously preserved. It's a matter of public record. It's just, I don't know that we took every single email we received and put it in a Word document or a PDF or something and then posted it on the website. I can try to find that for you to the extent that it's something you're interested in. But to Ed's point, we took the public comments we got last time, and that informed our work on the revision, and then we published that document. So we're going to look at that document, not an email that somebody sent us in October of 21. I'll see what I can find. But to Ed's point, I want to, we should move into the more substantive things. Duly noted what you're looking for. I will try to find it, and we'll have it emailed to the entire.
Awesome. It's just the same request that I've made in prior meetings, and that is to see what was submitted to the last commission.
Yes.
It shouldn't take any more of our time. This should be public record. It should be available. And I'm hoping that we all can see what was submitted to the last commission.
Sure. Any other old business, John?
Yeah. Although you may choose to treat it as new business, I would just simply say, as discussed at our last meeting, I did make an inquiry with my state senator, Bob Duff, about the desirability and feasibility of repealing during the coming legislative session the statute that requires changes to municipal council compensation to be approved by voter referendum. He responded to me that he would look into it, and then subsequently came back with a somewhat more substantive response that included a citation of the exact statute, which apparently was put in place in 1961. And he asked me if I was aware of other towns or cities that had expressed similar concern that the council compensation could not be handled through the budgetary process, but rather only through only with approval of city referendum. I told him that I was only on the Norwalk Charter Revision Commission. There likely are other cities and towns, and that the person who most likely would be aware of cities and towns who have bumped up against this, in my view, unreasonable constraint would be Steve Mednick, who has had the chance to consult with so many other towns on charter revision and this type of issue.
I mean, I think that maybe makes the most sense to discuss that when we go over the council compensation. I don't know that, I mean, I don't know that we need to deal with that tonight unless there was something time sensitive that you wanted to have Steve look at between now and then, but that's probably something to discuss at that point.
So I think what is time sensitive is if my senator is willing to pursue this in the state legislature in order to achieve what I at least consider to be a desirable result for every municipality in Connecticut, then he would like to know whether or not other towns have this concern, and if there's any way that Steve can share his knowledge base with us or with Senator Duff directly about what other towns have sought and been frustrated, what towns have been frustrated by this statute.
Mr. Chairman, I can address it very quickly.
Yeah, please, Steve, that'd be great.
We could put it in just to get to the agenda item we're going to discuss. We're going to be talking about the structure of the council at the next meeting, and I'm going to put a panel together to do that. The way most communities have addressed the issue is we've kind of circumvented the statute, or we've interpreted the statute to have charter provisions where you develop a baseline compensation for the members of the council. And we've done the same thing with mayors, where we give mayors a baseline with a COLA. But it's more relevant with regard to the council. And what we do is do a baseline compensation, a COLA that's attached to that compensation. And if it gets approved by the voters, then it has effectively complied with the statutory requirement for a referendum. You don't have to do it when the COLAs take effect because the voters have already approved the COLA. And therefore, we've worked around it. So I don't think there's a movement. I don't think anybody would be opposed to it. And I'm more than happy to talk to the majority leader about it. But the way we've addressed it in other communities is a baseline compensation with a COLA approved by the voters, and you don't have to go back to the voters again. But there's no reason why it shouldn't be. I do agree with John. There's no reason why it shouldn't be a budgetary item. The reason, but let me just say, compensation in general is controversial. It's controversial for mayors, controversial for council members. And the reason we've dealt with it in the charter was to take it out of the political fray so that mayors and councils could get reasonable increases over the course of time. Because a lot of mayors and councils have not gotten increases because everybody's afraid to do it because it's politically unpopular. And that's the way I've addressed it in just about all of the big city charters throughout the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
Bob, I'll give the senator a call if that's okay.
My perspective, that would be awesome. I think the problem that we have is, Steve, you're describing a regime whereby compensation is deferred to each town's charter revision commission to hopefully at one time set a baseline that can adjust over as time goes forward. In our case, there has been no baseline. There is no COLA. There's a $50 a month compensation to council members, which I think a council member could reasonably consider to be inconsequential and closer to zero than realistic. And anyway, if I were seeking, this is something we'll discuss later, but if I was seeking to amend our charter, I would just simply put it into the normal budgetary process, and council people can live with it, however they want to structure it, and not make it every 10 years, the Charter Revision Commission and figure out how the council should be compensated. I think that's a bad job for a Charter Revision Commission, but nonetheless, if it's got to be our job, then so it is.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Thank you, John, for bringing it up, and thank you, Steve, for checking in with Bob. Any other old business before we look at the attachment that went out for our upcoming schedule?
No.
Okay, so, new business. Did everybody get the attachment with the preliminary panels for the 2024-25 CRC meetings?
Yeah.
Jim, everybody else good? Okay, did anyone have any questions or comments about how that's laid out and how we were gonna look at those individual items? Does it make sense to folks to kind of go through it that way? Starting on 1.7 with the structure of the council, and then, so Steve, there's the 1.7 date and then the 1/21 date, the panel is the 1.7 and then the
Correct.
discussion, and then the discussion
Yes.
is the 1/21. Okay.
What I figured, Mr. Chairman, was the discussion. I'm planning on inviting, I haven't done it, I was waiting till tonight to get approval. I was planning on having representatives of as many of the larger cities as I can: Hartford, New Haven, Waterbury, Hamden, Middletown, and Stamford, possibly Bridgeport as well. I'm putting Hamden in there, even though Hamden's a little smaller, because Hamden is a good comparison because they have a hybrid body. Similar to Norwalk, they have an at-large component and a council and a district component. But the idea was to have representatives to discuss all of these issues. I noticed I did not put compensation on the list. Compensation should be on the list. And so the objective is to do that. I think you will find those who were on the commission before, or if you watched the council deliberations this past year with the panels I put together for them, they're usually quite informative. And then the discussion, the dialogue between the members of the commission and the panel will be, I think, incredibly useful and informative. I thought after a couple of hours of that, you probably would not have a lot of time or bandwidth to start with a discussion. And that's why I scheduled a discussion for the meeting following that meeting. But that's my intent, to try to put together a panel that is representative and that will, because I know there's been discussion of larger bodies, smaller bodies. People want NPR, other people don't want NPR, a minority party representation. But all those things will be discussed, and the communities represented will be communities that have NPR, don't have NPR, that are all district systems. New Haven is a ward system, or are hybrid systems like Waterbury, which are multi-membered systems that have a mini NPR within the 5 districts that they've got. And so you'll get to see a variety of legislative bodies, and you'll be able to probe people, and you'll be able to get a feel for how they work. You'll also be able to talk to them about 4-year terms. Does it make sense to have 4-year terms for both the mayor and the council? Or do you want to have a 4-year term for mayor, 2-year term for council, that establishes an accountability standard? Some of the communities go that way, others go where both bodies have 4-year terms. So I just think that it will be, I think you'll find that to be a very stimulated evening. And the usual format, just to give you an idea, if I may, Mr. Chair, is that we let the speakers speak. We let them go through a round of presentations. I usually ask them to limit themselves to 5 to 7 minutes, where they can highlight most of the subject areas that we're concerned about. But you'll find that once that is done, that'll be roughly 45 minutes to an hour, that you'll have a real good opportunity to have exchange of ideas with them. So that is the intent for the 7th of January.
I thought that format was perfect last time. I like that they are able to do, present their piece, we take notes, ask questions, and then I agree that between the presentation and then the follow-up questions, I don't, the commission, I believe, needs that next meeting to really have a substantial discussion about the issue. So I would, I would agree with you and recommend that we keep it that way. this time around. So we have, stop me if anybody has any discussions, but, the first one we'll address, Steve, and you wanna have, we'll include council compensation on that.
Yeah,
first
I'll
line.
I'll throw compensation in there for sure.
Okay. And did anyone have anything as far as, structure of the council that did they think needs to be added on the 7th? I mean, it's pretty comprehensive. You have a good discussion of kind of all the things that have come up so far that I think we've discussed and the members of the public have discussed. February 4th, we'll discuss the term of office and then figure out how we want to deal with the sheriff and constables that were holdovers from the last commission. March 4th, general fund process. And then our April 1st meeting is a discussion of the budget process after March 18th.
You'll have two budget.
Two budget
panels.
presentations.
Yeah, one on the 4th on general and one on the 18th on capital. And then you'll have your discussion on April Fool's Day on the budget.
Yeah.
We could change that.
For the 2-4 meeting, is that terms of office for all of our representatives? Just roll sheriff?
Is everyone able to hear, Jim?
Terms of office for all
Elected officials.
All elected officials?
/ the role of sheriffs and constables.
Okay, all elected officials, thank you. Good.
Although we weren't, when we say elected officials, mayor and council, right? I mean, we weren't having any discussions about the Board of Ed elected officials, right? Or is
I don't think
is
we
that
can.
part of it? I mean, we can, but it's not part of the, okay.
No
So
one's brought that up, so I didn't,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's anything that we'd be involved with anyway. Okay, so that's the February 4th meeting. Any other questions or suggested additions to the, particularly the March ones about the budget process? Otherwise, I will trust that Steve will put together, robust panels like he did last time, and we'll be able to have a good discussion about those things with some people who are dealing with it. And I thought that was most helpful, is it's not, it's not hypothetical, it's not philosophical best government, it's people who are dealing with it and for better or worse, how it's worked out, and then how we think it might fit here. So
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, Jim.
When we talk about BET functions, or is that, we had talked about whether the BET would be appointed or elected officials? Where does that discussion take place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So are
that's
those,
an question. It could, I would expect, well, we probably should, that's interesting because I just wonder where the right place for that is, whether that's a separate conversation entirely.
yes, Steve, I was almost wondering if that's something that would
2-4?
on 2-4.
Maybe on
Yeah.
2-4, when we're talking about.
I think 2-4, yeah, because if you want to move it to an elected cycle, then we're talking about terms of office. So I'll put that into 2-4.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jim. Thank you.
Well, it
I
was
think
mentioned by the.
we also talked about the composition of the BET. Do we mention that before? Not just elected or appointed, but the composition of the BET by party affiliation, et cetera,
I
or
think
by district.
Right.
I think that would
I
make
think
sense.
2-4 would be the right place to go. for
I
that.
think yeah. So and again, I think so. So the March meetings will be BET functions and approvals as related to the annual budget process. But I think as far as
Structure.
composition, structure, elected terms, whatever it is, that let's do all that on February 4th.
And for that, we might have to have a couple of panels. What I might suggest is none of the other large cities have boards of finance. The only other large city that has a board of finance is Stanford. And so, maybe I could look to Greenwich or something like that, because Greenwich has a decent sized population. I'll look at some of the other, they're mainly congregated in the Gold Coast, basically from Fairfield to Bridgeport. None of the large cities throughout the state. I don't have a good there's no comparative data because they don't exist except from Fairfield to Greenwich. So I'll try to figure out who the right people are for that panel to have that discussion.
Yeah, Greenwich has an elected BET.
Yeah.
I know a couple of the people, so let me know, Steve. I could see if anyone will be willing to.
Yeah, so we can put together a small group on that. On the term of office, I don't think we need, we'll probably discuss it a little bit on 1/7, but I think that when we're looking at the term of office, I will prepare a comparative a comparative analysis to show you how the other cities are structured with terms of office, which I think is the simple approach to it. And I think that you know, I mean, I suppose we could bring some mayors in, what their thoughts are, what it was like for 2-year term, 4-year term. I think everybody kind of knows those arguments. So I'm not sure we need a real panel discussion on that, but I'll have background data on how the other communities have addressed it.
Thank you, Steve.
I mean, the
Any other-
trend is all the large cities are moving in the direction of 4-year terms. New Haven did it in the last cycle. Hamden, which is a smaller city, did it in the last cycle. Waterbury did it a while ago. Hartford did it a while ago. Bridgeport's had it for a long time. So most of the large cities are moving in that direction.
For chief elected official or for the council people or both?
Some are, some aren't. New Haven has it for both. Hamden does not. Hamden will have a 4-year term for mayor, 2-year term for legislative council. I can go through the others as well. I think Waterbury has it for both. And Hartford has it for both. So so the trend is that both have it. There's arguments, and I'll be happy to make those arguments as to why you want to keep the council a lesser term as an accountability standard. But we can talk about that when we get to it. But I'll definitely throw the BET structure into the 2-4 argument.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Mendick, my hand has been up for it's been up for a very long time. I would like to raise the topic of, we're talking about minority party representation. Will we have any independent party speakers when we eventually get to that point?
Well, I don't know what an independent party is. You have in Connecticut, in Hartford, the minority party is the Working Families Party. So Stamford doesn't have any minority parties. They have the Democrats and the Republicans. New Haven just has Democrats. But, you know, I can certainly invite people who are from the minority parties in the larger cities. I mean, Hamden has Republican minority party, and NPR from an elected perspective is wide open, so that the party that captures a majority is limited to what it can, the number of people that can serve, and then the remainder of the members would be filled by those who get the most votes, and that could be Republicans, it could be independents, it could be conservatives, it could be petitioning candidates, whatever it may be. But in the state right now, the only, in the big cities, to my knowledge, the only big city that has a minority party other than the Democrats or Republicans is Hartford with the Working Families. I could certainly invite somebody from the Working Family Party in Hartford. I know them pretty well. I also know that there's the No Labels group, but it's really in small towns. But I'm doing a charter revision in Stonington right now, and the first selectwoman of Stonington, I don't know if they call them No Labels. There's a term that they've been using in that part of the state. They've been moving, trying to find people who are not affiliated in either party to run for office. And there's no special rules for it, but if in NPR, with a minority party representation in a Board of Selectmen election, you have a shot at having something like that happen. And so we could talk about that maybe at the end of the meeting on the 7th. We could talk about that a little bit for But you know, but I could invite somebody from Hartford who is a working family member, if that's of value or interest to anybody.
Because Norwalk, I mean, I'm a Democrat, but Norwalk has a independent party, and the independent in the field. Anyway, I won't go into that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. No, and
and
there
I
are
have
independent
some other
parties.
questions.
Hamden has an independent party too. And they ran people last time, but they just didn't get enough votes to be the minority party, is what it came down to.
And
But I'll be
beyond
happy
that,
to invite
I had a
somebody.
few other questions, points, kind of about, accessibility and people, kind of understanding, what was going on with what we were doing here with the charter revision. If we have the time to talk about that briefly.
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, so we talked about Articles 13 and 14. And I know, because I'm on this commission and I have gone through the document, I know that Article 13 is 13.3, the Mary Eldridge person who is getting, but a lot of people don't know that. So if we could include that in the minutes, that would be great. Kind of a little bit of, kind of a little bit more information for people who are not, totally, enmeshed in all this. Same with 14.
Joe, I just want to
like,
I want to be sure I'm understanding. So you want to have include in the minutes of this meeting the Article 13, the widow payments?
So from the previous meeting, we talked about Articles 13, which I knew had to be about 13.3 Mary Eldridge pension. I knew that, but nobody else would know that. And then there was an Article 14, and I had no idea what that was about. I should know that, but I don't. So if we could get a little bit more specificity in the minutes, that would be awesome. So people, they actually go in there, they're like, oh, this is what I'm, what I should pay attention to.
Joe,
Whomever.
what I would suggest as a reasonable solution, we tabled our approval of the minutes from our last meeting, December 3rd. You're raising a question, which actually is quite similar to my concerns about the minutes not providing enough detail and omitting information that we consider relevant. I will circulate among the members of the commission, if it's okay with the chair, my comments from those minutes and changes that I request. And I invite you to mirror that same effort.
Yeah. So guys, here's my suggestion on the minutes, because John and I have talked about this at length, and I want to really not spend any more time talking about it. I mean, we talk about the individual things within the minutes, but not kind of like a philosophical discussion of what minutes should include. So what my kind of solution was on the minutes was, when we receive them to review for our next meeting, if people think there's anything important that was omitted that should be included, let's discuss it at our next meeting. We'll figure out how to get it added, and then we'll go from there. Because I think to have 9 people say to the person who does our minutes, we want it to be more detailed. We want it to be, Joe, what you think is important might not be what I think important. What John thinks is important, Tanya thinks, well, why is that in there? I mean, John brought up some things that I didn't even have in my notes last time, because I didn't think they were important enough to have in the minutes, because we were going to discuss another thing. So what I would say, because there's no real clear way to do this, where we tell Telesco add more detail, right? What does that mean? Let's just, if someone has something important that they don't see in the minutes, let's discuss it at the next one before we approve it. We'll add it, and then we're good to go. I think it's the only reasonable way to do it. Otherwise, we're going to spend half of this committee's time talking about minutes. So let's just
As a reminder, these minutes are recorded and on YouTube. So anyone that has any specific, I mean, you can read the minutes to see where in the meeting the discussion occurred, and then go to a YouTube video of the minutes of the meeting and hear everything that was said verbatim.
Right.
I mean, that's available to the public.
Ed, that's true in theory. The problem is that minutes,
it's true in
based
fact.
on my review, I would argue, because the minutes themselves omit so much information and actually contain errors, the minutes are a much less useful tool than can and really, in my view at least, should be. Even though you correctly point out that these meetings are recorded.
I have a
Well,
sense of people
I'm
that,
I'm seeing in the minutes that, you know, Mr. Mendick was told, but by whom? You know, that might be instructive.
I have a
But
sense that
anyway.
if people really have that level of curiosity, that they're not going to rely
Hopefully,
on minutes,
yes.
they're going
And
to.
that is how I wound up here.
No,
Because I
no,
have that
I'm
level of
saying if people have
curiosity.
that level of curiosity, then they're not going to rely on minutes. I would assume they would just go right to the video.
You would, but the
think
so. I would
problem
think
is
so.
people may have that level of curiosity, but just not that level of time. And we really would like the
Well,
minutes
you're
to
not
be a
going to get
useful
minutes that
tool.
are verbatim or close to verbatim.
Of course not. We already discussed
or
that.
to
We're not going to get
everyone's
verbatim minutes.
satisfaction.
No one's
John,
asking for verbatim minutes.
which is why we need to move on from the issue, because something that you think is critically important that needs to be in here, that a member of the public would want to read, I might not. And Joe might not,
Correct.
and Ed might think something entirely different, right? So if there are errors, if there are typos, if there are misattributions, let's correct it, right? If there's something that you think should have been in there because it's very important, let's add it before we vote to approve the minutes. But there's no reason to discuss this further, because there's nothing we can say to objectively improve the minutes for any individual person. We
Right,
correct
but I
what's-
suggest that all we should do is make it as accessible to the public as possible. I think that is the
I think
goal.
we're all in agreement on that. We're all in agreement on that. All of the videos are posted. I will go back through the website again. I've done 2 rounds of suggestions to the city on things where I think we can improve the website. We'll do a 3rd round and we'll keep going until we get it right. You know, contrary to what was suggested before, and my assumption is no one else on this commission has any reason to keep anything we discuss from the public. So it will all be up there. We just need to make sure we get it right. Jim, I'm sorry, did you raise your hand in my peripheral? You're good,
I was
okay,
just giving it thought.
okay. All right, so I'm sorry, Joe, did you have anything else kind of related to the minutes, unrelated to the minute? Okay. So that was, I think we kind of merged our new business and discussion portions of the agenda. So unless anyone has anything else,
Merry
you know,
Christmas and Happy New Year
Merry
and Happy
Christmas and New
Hanukkah.
Year's and Hanukkah and you know,
Yeah.
hope everybody gets to enjoy a break with their family and you know, we'll reconvene in January and get back at it, hopefully with a new and improved website as far as links to our stuff goes and you know, we'll start you know, hearing from the panels and figuring out what to do next.
See you all in the new
adjourn?
year, and thank you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
At what
motion
time?
to adjourn.
7:32? I'm sorry, was there a motion?
Yes, there was a motion.
Ed, okay, all in favor? Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
All right.
John, safe travels home. Steve, safe travels down to Florida.
Good holidays, everybody.